Alright, so now that it's dawn, what we'll do is we'll take a look at heading on over towards where we need to get to for our first little mission, and that is to find the sleeping survivor. So let's head over there now. So again, on the way, just make sure you're looting wherever you possibly can. As well, there are a few little wolves that you'll find along the way. We mentioned earlier, if you loot those as well, you can gain bones and wolf meat as well, which can be helpful for health. So one of the things you'll come across, the first thing in terms of getting to that point, it looks to us at this point like the easiest way to get to where we need to get to on the map is across this bridge here. So you can see just above my head there's a little shiny thing, and what that is actually a hook point, and we actually haven't constructed that hook yet. So that's giving us a little indicator at this stage that if we had constructed the hook at this stage, that we would have a little bit of benefit and we could actually be able to proceed in a little bit of an easier fashion than if we had to go down here into the Shroud. And by the looks of it, we could go down into the Shroud here, or we could head up, as we took a look at before, through Rookmore and see if we can find our way up that way. So I think we'll take our chances and head up through Rookmore and see if we can actually find a way to get there, which is where we're headed now. As I mentioned, always looting along the way, always need to loot. Now you'll see what I'm going to try and do wherever possible is only use the single jump, even though I've already unlocked the double jump, just to sort of indicate to you where you are actually able to get to with your current level. So we're a little bit stuck here, and you'll see there's another one of those little hooks there. So at this stage, it's looking like we're a little bit stuck and we can't actually get up to where we need to get to. So we can make it to there, but that's about it. So at this stage, as much as we want to, we can't go any further. So you can at this stage decide whether you want to actually construct the grappling hook to proceed out to where you need to get to, or if you want to take a little bit more of a look around and take your chances in the Shroud. As I mentioned earlier, it all depends on how you like to play it, and you know, whether you think that you're comfortable enough with fighting enemies or not. Now again, another thing that will actually present itself here, and it's a good sort of indicator and a good chance to actually point this mechanic out. If I actually select here on my home, what I can do is actually fast travel to it. So if I've decided that I just want to get to home really quickly, what I can do is just hit that fast travel button, and instantly I am back at home, which is quite handy. So if it's getting near night time and you are unsure as to whether you want to be out, or if you just want to go back and store a lot of things that you actually have stored up here, you can go back home, instantly store everything, and then come on back and head back out again if you feel like you want to do so. So what we'll do here is we'll take a look at what we need in order to construct a couple of things, which is firstly the glider. So things that we've come across already in terms of constructing the glider, we've come across animal fur already, so we're aware of that. We're aware of string as well, and we're also aware of shroud spores, but we're not aware of what shroud wood is. But you would imagine, as we alluded earlier when we were breaking down trees, that they produce wood, so you would imagine that trees that grow within the shroud would possibly give us shroud wood. So we'll have to test that theory out when we go down into the Shroud and break down some trees down there. And in terms of the grappling hook, we need some metal scraps, which we haven't come across as yet. we also need string, which we know is quite easily created, and shroud spores, we need 10 of those. So at this stage, in terms of what we got saved up in terms of shroud spores, we don't quite have enough. We don't have any shroud wood as yet. So our basic thing that we need to do is, firstly, I would imagine, look at getting some more plant fiber to create some more string, and also concentrate on getting some shroud spores as well. So what we'll do is we'll try and tick off a few things all at the same time, and this is again a really good habit to get into with this game. If you can try and kill 2 or 3 birds with one stone, so to speak, at the same time, it makes life a lot easier for you. So if you can try and get organized as well as you possibly can, it's a really good habit to have. So what we're going to do now is head along this path here, so we'll get that buff for being on the road, for being on the path, and then we'll head on down into the shroud down here, and we'll see what we can find. So you'll see just in front of me here is a piece of lore. Now I'm actually doing a series on collecting lore, so I'm not actually going to collect the lore at this stage and tell you what the lore is. Sorry if that's going to be a little bit annoying for people, but it's just the way it is, because I don't want to do 3 different saves and save a whole heap of different times in terms of this. So we're presented with a little bit of information here, which is saying stay on the path, lest the shroud's kin will take you. Salvation lies straight ahead. So to me that is telling us that if we venture too far off the path, that there are going to be some enemies that are going to try and get a hold of us and kill us. You'll see there what I've collected from these little mushroom looking things here is shroud liquid, and you may recall that that was one of the things we actually needed to construct a couple of things back at our home base. So what we'll do, seeing we're not too far away from the path here and we can't see any enemies around, and it's daytime as well, we will collect that. And we were theorising just a moment ago that shroud wood would come from destruction of trees within the shroud, and look at that, there it is, shroud wood. So we've now got a couple of shroud wood. We need a little bit more than a couple. So what we'll do is we'll stay in the immediate area here and not get up to too much and not get too far off the path, so that we're not in too much danger, because we still don't have any good weapons and we're at a very, very low level. So the general gist of what's going on here, oh no, we've encountered an enemy. Alright, and as I mentioned earlier, these guys are only very low level because we haven't ventured very far from home, so at this stage it's not too stressful. But as we checked in and found out earlier on as well, we only had 7 of those shroud spores, so we needed to get a hold of them anyway. So at this stage, during the daytime, we're not really concerned too much about running into a few enemies here and there. So we'll just continue on our way. Whoop. So as I mentioned earlier, wherever you can, try and use the mechanics of the game and attack the enemies from behind. So unfortunately we did not receive anything in terms of shroud spores from that enemy, but we got 5 shroud spores from that little grave there, which is fantastic. So now we've got enough shroud spores to do the building that we needed to do and the construction we needed to do that we were looking at earlier. And now that we've chopped down a few trees as well, we've also got enough in terms of shroud wood. Now we've come across some more enemies down here, so it's not too much of a stretch for us to take those guys out. And you'll see something that I've just looted there from one of those enemies, which is actually quite an interesting thing. So that is actually our first little bit of equipment. So when we look at our character screen that we were talking about earlier on, you'll see those are actually highlighted there where the rings actually go. So what that does is that's given me an increase in stamina and an increase in health. So that's pretty cool. So we haven't actually done too much in terms of proceeding through the game, and we've already got a really good buff, and we're going to be a little bit more powerful in terms of what we can do when we're ready to fight. So you'll see now I've got a notice on the top of my screen which is saying you need to get out of the shroud really quickly, buddy. You've only got a minute and a half before you perish. And as we were given notice to do earlier on, we need to try and stay on the path wherever we possibly can. So what we'll do at this stage is head back to the path that we were on earlier and try and get out of the shroud as quick as we possibly can. So we're back over here at the shroud now, and now we've made our way out. So as we mentioned earlier, the shroud timer resets, and another mechanic that hasn't really been sort of explained in the game, but it's a good opportunity right here to actually point out. While I'm in the shroud here, you'll see the top of the screen, we're enshrouded. If I actually try to teleport, and before I even try to teleport, you'll see in red down the bottom of the screen there, fast travel is not possible while in the shroud. So that's already giving me a good indicator that we can't fast travel while we're in the shroud. So now that we've completed that and got out of the shroud again, we can head on back to home. So what I've done really quickly here is I've actually taken everything out of my storage and put it onto my character. This is a little bit of a mechanic and a thing that, depending on you know, how you find the game to be, can be annoying for you in the beginning, is not having ready access to everything that's actually within your storage boxes. When you actually go to do any upgrades or any creation of blocks or whatever you're looking to actually create, you can't do any of that if any of the materials you actually require are not on your character. There is, however, at a later date, and we'll cover it at a later date, an upgrade that is available for these chests. And what you can do is change those into what's called a magic chest. And what they enable is, if you had 10 magic chests, for example, and you were looking to do any crafting either here at the workbench or within the crafting menu on you, you can instantly craft whatever you want because everything is recognized as being accessible to you immediately. The same here if you're looking to upgrade the altar or strengthen the flame or anything like that. So it's just something to note earlier on in the game, is that you don't actually have ready access to all of that. So what we're generally sort of getting the gist of here is that we need to find a spark, and we also need to find some more resin, but as we saw earlier, that comes from trees, so that'll be easy to find. It's not a hassle at all finding that. One thing you will see now in the construction menu, now that you've constructed a crude mattress, when you go into the beds menu, you will see now a crude wooden bed has opened up. So it actually pays for you to construct each of the items. Even if you don't use them, it still pays for you to construct them, because what will happen is they will eventually open up another item that is able to be constructed in a lot of cases for you at a later date. So in terms of getting ourselves armed and a little bit more ready to go for heading into some more difficult zones, what we'll do now is head to the crafting section, and what we'll do is construct ourselves a few weapons. What I've decided that I'm going to do with my particular build is I'm going to make myself an archer. It's completely up to you what you'd like to do. So what I'll do is craft myself a bow, which I've done, and I'll craft myself 50 wooden arrows. And another thing we'll do as well is craft ourselves a shield. So again, when we found the ring earlier, that's giving you a little bit of an indicator. As you'll see here, these two items that are on my character have now got a yellow indicator on them. So what I can equip as my ranged weapon now is the bow, And what I can equip now for my shield is the shield that I've just created myself. It's a basic shield, but it'll do. And we've already got a couple of weapons, and I think at this stage we are ready to go and attack a little bit more advanced enemies. So I think that'll do us for this particular episode. We've already gone on for long enough now. It's, once again, as I said earlier on with this particular series, it seems like we really haven't done too much, but there's a heck of a lot to actually do in the game, and a heck of a lot that you actually need to cover. And as I mentioned also, and I'll continue to mention, you can proceed at your own pace in this game completely as you see fit. You can head off and try and attack some really hard enemies if you want to, or you can just run and hide from them, or you can just be stealthy and try and kill them at a distance. That's one of the reasons why I actually like using the archer build for myself personally. But, you know, it's up to you how you'd actually like to do it. You may like to actually use a wand and do a lot of fighting magically. You may like to use a staff and cast spells from a distance as well. It's up to you. So there's a few different ways that you can actually progress through. Another one of the things that I'm actually looking for at this stage as well is to construct myself some clothing. Now that will be for a little bit of armor, but it'll also be a little bit to keep us warm as well. So that'll be one of the things that we'll try and construct before we head off on our journeys as well. Alright, so at this stage I think we'll head on back to our little campsite here, and we'll call it quits for the evening. What we'll do is do a little bit of crafting, and we'll see you in the next episode.